Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Atpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vedya Dravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Yata sarvani bhutani pratibhanti stithani cha yatraivo pashamam yanti tasmai satyatmane namaha. So we are continuing our way through the story of Leela. And remember what we've heard so far. She had a hottie for a husband, and she prayed to the goddess Saraswati that if she were to die before him, that's good. But if he died before her, she wanted him not to leave his body. And then boon number 2, you come whenever I call. So she does tapas to the goddess. Goddess comes, grants her these boons. So years go by and they both become old. And her husband, Padma, does in fact die. She's bereft. So she gets Saraswati on the main line, who comes, takes her to this scenario of this Brahmin. I think we did this, didn't we? The Brahmin Vasishtha and his wife Arundhati. Did we get that far?
Yeah.
Okay. And Vasishtha looks out the window and he sees a king passing and he goes, gee, kings have it better than me. I'll be happy when it'll be better if. So when he dies, he becomes a king. And his wife Arundhati follows him because she's very dutiful. And she becomes his wife. So Padma and Leela are in fact Vasishtha and Arundhati. So where are we now? What verse?
37.
Verse 37. Which chapter?
The story of Leela.
Story of Leela.
Should I start?
Please.
Atyanta bhava sampattau nyatu kiyasya vastunaha yuktya shastrai yatyante yete brahmabhyasina sthiraha. Those who strive by reasoning and by scriptures in the accomplishment of the complete non-existence of the objects known and the knower, they are firm practitioners of the realization of Brahman, the ultimate reality.
So Saraswati says, if you want to find out the answer to all these things, you have to realize. So here it says what it is we need to do. It sounds impossible. We have to achieve the non-existence of the phenomenal world and the individual knower of it. And with verses like this, we always approach it from two viewpoints. The first is it's a description of nirvikalpa samadhi. Nir means without, vikalpa means a movement or a thought, samadhi, equality of mind. This is when all thoughting has stopped. Actually, it's when the vasanas reach their exhaustion. It's the annihilation of the vasanas here and now that's considered steady wisdom by the wise. Before that, there's still a little bit of ignorance, so that individuality does not dissolve. But in samadhi, the world disappears, the individuality disappears. It is like sleep in that way, but sleep still has one vritti, ignorance. You are fully conscious. When the mind returns from samadhi, it is conditioned by that. And you know beyond the shadow of a doubt, I'm not a person. I'm that witnessing consciousness. I'm that ground of being. Wonder of wonders. That person was here, now it's gone. So just like when you awaken from the dream, you shift from the dreamer to the waker, the whole dream thing just goes gone. And you're the waker. The shift between the waker and knowledge of the self, that I know I am Brahman, is a very subtle shift, though far more profound. Now, I always say, don't seek nirvikalpa samadhi per se. Don't make nirvikalpa another object of desire. The better way to do it is strive hard to know who you are and get established in that. Later time with other texts, we'll talk about fleeting samadhis. I'm not going to do that now. The other definition of achieving the disappearance of the phenomenal world and the individual knower of it is what we call sahaja samadhi, natural or continuous samadhi. So the first one, nirvikalpa, is like snakes and ropes. When I'm deluded and I see a snake, once I inquire and investigate, I see, oh, it's just a rope. The snake is no longer available for perception. Snake's gone. That's like nirvikalpa samadhi. Nirvikalpa samadhi, the phenomenal world and the ego are gone. Sahaja samadhi is like mirage waters in the desert. Driving through the desert and I think there's a mirage ahead. My senses report water and my understanding is water. I keep driving, you go like this to make the car go. And the water recedes and then I understand, oh, it's a mirage. But listen carefully. My senses continue to report what looks like water. Isn't that weird? I know it's heat waves off the sand, but it looks like a big lake. So also for the person of steady wisdom, They see the same phenomenal world as the person in ignorance. They know Brahma Satya, Jagan Nitya. Brahman alone is real. This world of name and form, including the ego sense, Nitya, illusory, an imagination, nothing substantial. So when Lord Shiva opens his third eye and the world is destroyed, what it means is our spiritual ignorance is destroyed when the third eye opens. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Sargadavev Sargadavev notpannam drishyam nastyeva tatsada idam jagat aham cheti bodhabhyasam vidupare. The seen or visible universe was not born even at the beginning of creation. That does not exist at all, always. Quote, this world and I are in the Supreme, end quote. Awakening to this truth is known as the practice of knowledge.
So this is jnana abhyasa, the practice of knowledge. So this world is not created. The Hebrew psalmist says, you are the potter, I am the clay. The Abrahamic religions say God is a creator, and out of nothing, he's made a creation. It is a real thing. And in it are creatures, you and me. Vedanta says, no. Phenomenal world is nothing but Brahman. And what appears as name and form is mithya, illusion, sankalpa, imagination. Like a dream. This is why I always go to the dream state. You are the God of your dream. And at night, when you project the dream, that's mini Maya, I call it. The infinite is dreaming all this. But you get your dream at night. And the first thing that happens in the dream is the non-apprehension of yourself as the waker. Maya. Microcosmic scale. Then comes Vikshepa Shakti, the projecting power. And there are people, places, things, and conditions, a dream body, a dream ego, dream thoughts and feelings. There is otherness in the dream. But upon awakening, I see, no, my one unified mind refracted into it. Who had a dream recently? You are dreamless people.
I did.
What did you dream about?
I was writing some exam in New York.
You were writing an exam. So did the exam really exist?
It did in the dream, or felt like it.
It felt like it. But did you wake up with papers next to you or a blue book or whatever they used to do?
No.
There was cause and effect in the dream. Were you the proctor or the teacher, or were you the student?
Oh no, I'm always the student.
Oh, okay. You're writing this exam. So in your dream, there was cause and effect. I assume you had dream study that you did, and you may or may not have been prepared.
Yeah.
Cause and effect. Did you use a pen, number two, a pen or a number two pencil?
It's a pen, I think.
So there was cause and effect. Your pen created the
Mm.
characters on the page. But was it real cause and effect? No. And there was certainly the perception of otherness. You were different than the pen. You were different than the book. The what do you call it? The things you write the exams in.
Yeah. It's paper.
Yeah. You were different than the desk. But all of it was your one unified mind. The desk, the paper, the pen never was created at any time. So also, all this was never born, never created at any time. That's so nihilistic, Jim. No, it's not nihilistic. Nihilism would be it's unreal and nothing matters, no purpose, no nothing. On the contrary, it's all God. It's pregnant with potentiality and possibility and intelligence. Boredom. Boredom means full. It also means fecund. So here the scripture is saying the universe itself is marvelous, infinite, co-eternal with consciousness. And everything in it is in constant flux. Forms are always changing. But the substratum is always the same. Next verse.
दृश्या संभव बोधेन रागद्वेषादितानवे रति बलोदिता यासौ ब्रह्माभ्यास स उच्यते. That satisfaction which is strongly produced in the thinning or shedding of love and hate by the knowledge of the non-existence of the seen is called the practice of the realization of Brahman.
So we want to thin the mind. How do I come to see the fundamental transparency of the phenomenal world? I have to dial down the volume level on my reactivity to the names and forms. So as raga and dvesha, which is just happiness and unhappiness because of conducive or non-conducive environments, I just practice, let it go, let it go, let it go. Some of you know Priya. Priya came up with a marvelous term. Radical, perpetual acceptance. What is, what is, what is. And don't worry, because it's just a hologram. You are just fine. Truth, so is everybody else. But what about the homeless and the suffering? It's like a bad dream. Which is more real at night? A pleasant dream or a nightmare? Either one. Doesn't mean the nightmare isn't uncomfortable. Never say that. the self is never touched. And if you make friends with, that's probably not the best language, if you become conversant with, if you become familiar with the no thingness of yourself, yet it is being and it is changeless. You have to prove it to yourself. Midst of some crisis, stop, thin the mind, tanu manasaha, introvert the attentive faculty, and see whether or not there's some suffering self there. Or is it just the reactivity of the mind? We give up our attachments to conducive and non-conducive environments, which produce the raga and the dvesha. This is called the practice of knowledge. Going on.
Tadhyasena nivarnam iti abhyaso mahodayah sambhashyaivam nishayam te nirvikalpa samadhina babhuvatu chidakasha rupinyau vyomagakriti. Since liberation is attained by such practice, the practice itself is the supreme fulfillment. Conversing thus in the night, they too, Leela and the goddess, became of the form of the space of consciousness by Nirvikalpa Samadhi, or yogic state of absolute consciousness, transcending the differentiation of the knower, knowledge, and the known, and possessed of the bodily form of heavenly beings.
So, now this possessed of the bodily form of heavenly beings, that's a literary device. The first part of the verse is incredibly important. In our breaking open of the scripture, Vedanta is what we call a Shabda Pramana. Shabda means word or sound. We do what I call work in the knowledge. By turning your attention back on yourself, back on yourself. Your mind gets quiet, it gets tuned up. It's a gestalt that happens in this environment. And then we tell you what you're experiencing while you're experiencing it. So your experience and your understanding come together at the same time. So Leela and the goddess spend time. Sadhu Sangha and Satsang. Till their minds stop. This is so important. I'm pretty sure it was a camp that Swamiji did at San Jose State. Now, frequently, if you meet other yogis, they'll say, oh, my guru this, oh, my guru that, and oh, he's so powerful, and she's so fantastic, and yada, 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 yada. It's all about the guru. So at this camp, I don't even remember what scripture Swamiji was doing. There was probably a couple hundred of us in a lecture hall. And he was working the knowledge, turning our minds back on the self, ourselves. Till finally there was 200 people in Samadhi. Somebody goes, He gets up and he walks off the stage. he had disappeared. All of us there at the camp were lost. The direct experience of our own self. That's a great teacher. That's a great teacher. So, Saraswati and Leela are doing this. Lost in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And then, in order to keep our story going, they have bodies of light, etheric bodies, so they can do some traveling. Okay, going on.
दूरात् दूरम् अभिलुप्त्य ततो ब्रह्माण्डमण्डलात् निर्गत्यान्यदनुप्राप्ते मण्डलं ब्रह्मणास्पदं तदा तस्यास्तु सङ्कल्पात् तत्रया तदृशुस्తంభे. Then, hovering across from distance to distance and going out of orbit of this world, when they reached the other world, which was the abode of the Brahmana, the people there saw them, verily by the will of the goddess.
So now we're having a time warp. Normally, when we think of reincarnation, we think of linear time. Oh, yes, I was a camel driver in an incarnation 300 years ago. Am I making sense?
Mm-hmm.
So the purpose of this story is to whack down all these notions of linear time. So she's Leela, married to Padma. Here's about Padma's prior incarnation. But now they go to that loka. This is why it's like the movie Inception. They keep going into another reality, another reality, another reality. That is, in fact, what our lives are. We just keep popping into another reality with a small r. So we've talked about your wedding back in India. How long ago was that?
10 years ago.
Yeah. It's like another reality. Did it really happen? You know what I mean? What's the difference between remembering your wedding and remembering your dream?
No difference.
Yeah. Did you really run a bunch of restaurants?
I don't know. It doesn't seem like it anymore. It's funny, I'll drive by the restaurant sometimes because it's in my neighborhood. And it's like, did that really happen? Because it seems so far away now.
Yeah.
Only 5 years.
But what
Yeah.
the story is, so now Leela and the goddess go to this other loka where you have Vasishtha and Arundhati. And if it's reincarnation, how can you see your own former incarnation? But you create multiple egos all the time. In your dream, you had a dream body and it sure seemed like you, didn't it?
Yeah.
No, you were in your bed at home. But did your mind not create another body? Think. So, They're now in, they say planets, worlds, the English falls short. They're in a different loka. Loka means world or people. A different location, a different locus. All right, going on.
नमोस्तु वनदेवीभ्याम् इत्युक्त्वा कुसुमाञ्जलिं तत्याज शर्मार्थ सार्धं गृहजनेन सह. Salutations to the goddesses of the woods. Having said thus, the eldest Brahmana gave away or offered a handful of flowers along with the people of the house.
Yes. So they see Leela and Saraswati. These are celestial beings. So they do puja. Honor them. Going on. Namostu. That's interesting, Sandhi.
Namostu. Yeah. It's Namaha Astu.
Oh, of course.
Because there's two of them.
Yes.
Putram sa murthina pasparsha tena sarve sucham jaguhu tat drishtva punara yata Leela devim prichhatah. She touched her son on the head. By that, all gave up their grief. Seeing that and having come again to the goddess, Leela asked.
So remember, Vasishtha has died, but they've got kids. So she's assuaging the grief of the kids of Vasishtha and Arundhati. Going on.
Very confusing.
It's designed to be confusing. It's supposed to be a big mind warp because that's the world. We think the world is laid out in linear time. But even the physicists say this isn't so. I was watching one YouTube video, I think it was Tyson, the astrophysicist. What's his first name?
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson. And he was saying that if you got on a rocket ship and it was something like 25% of the speed of light and went to Alpha Centauri, that's our closest star neighbor, it would take us 100 years to get there. Saw the star, you turn the ship around, 100 years to come back to Earth. You'd think they'd been gone 200 years. And he says, no, 1,000,000 years would have passed on the Earth. Because time changes as you approach the speed of light. And who are the Kelly brothers, Mark, and what's the other one's name? The twin astronauts. One of them's in Congress now.
Mark is in Congress.
I can't remember his brother.
Robert.
Hmm?
Robert.
Anyway, so one of the things they did, because they're identical twins, one was on the ground, they had the same make of watch, and they synchronized their time. The other one went up on the space station and was there for quite a while, moving pretty slow when you think about the speed of light, but it goes pretty fast. And when he came back to Earth, the watches were no longer synchronous. Even that.
I think they even did like some physical tests on them and they found differences in their
Yeah, they've like
physiology.
aged differently, right?
Yeah.
Of course.
When you're in space, you don't age
Yeah.
much.
But it's not that they're in space, it's that Time
Time.
has changed.
Oh, that's it. That's
It's, well, maybe you
Yeah.
don't age because no gravity,
right. Yeah.
but also time is different. The time in moving fast seems slower to us on Earth.
Like space and time are both the same thing, right? That's what Einstein kind of figured out.
You're already above my pay grade. But the point from the standpoint of yoga is that the story is designed to be confusing. It's designed to warp your head. It's designed to break down our deeply rooted belief in cause and effect, linear time. This causes that. Layers and layers and layers of realities with a small r. Going on.
मृतस्य भर्तुजीवोऽसौ यत्र राज्यं करोति मे तत्राहं किं न तै दृष्टास्मिह सुतेन किम्. Where the soul of my dead husband rules the kingdom there, why have I not been seen by them, the inhabitants? Why have I been seen by my son here?
So, Leela is seen by the son of Arundhati and Vasishtha, but she's not seen by the reincarnated Padma. Remember, she had the thing where he's old and on the bed of flowers, and then she goes to this reality where she sees him as a 16-year-old stud, but he didn't see her. So why is she visible in one reality and not visible in another? Let's see.
Devyovacha abhyasena vina vatse tada te dvaita nishchayah nastam gotu bhavat satya sankalpatvam abhutana cha. The goddess said, "Child, then without practice your firm belief in duality did not get extinct, nor was there the mental resolve for knowing the truth."
So it's because her mind was gross. And remember, the goddess, she took her out of the body. Now, there's a lot of good stuff implied here. Any of you seen the movie Sixth Sense? Yes.
Yeah.
Who's the actor?
Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis, yeah. So you don't find out that he's really dead to the end of the movie. I hope I didn't. Spoiler alert here. And if you go back and watch it a second time, he never interacts with anybody else other than the kid.
Mhm.
Really cool. But the idea is frequently when people die, they don't know they're dead. That's all a ghost is, someone who doesn't know they're dead. They're hanging around the earth plane because they haven't realized what's happening and they haven't gone on to a more refined loka. Now, the whole point here is Willis didn't know he was dead, yet he thought his astral body that is moving around in the world was his physical body. So actually, I like to use the image. It's like when you go to the barber shop or the beauty salon to get your hair cut. Right now, yeah, it's my hair. I'm attached to it. But when they cut it and it falls on the barbershop floor, you as a body are still there. So even before realization, the subtle body will drop the physical body. If any of you have had friends who've had near-death experiences, one of the most common pieces of it, there you are, 10, 15, 20 feet above your physical body looking down. You see it on the operating table, and they brought out the paddles to start your heart, or you were in the car crash and you see your body there. And then, have any of you had friends who've had these kind of experiences?
My ex-husband did. He didn't have that. He just said he went to a place where everything was perfect.
But he didn't get to see his
He
physical
didn't see
body.
his physical body. No.
No. Not everyone does.
Yeah.
But there was a sense of an individuality and a personality in that loka that he went to.
Mhm.
See? Sometimes it's called an etheric body or an astral body. It's the sukshma sharira in Sanskrit. All right, going on.
So I guess the implication here is by doing practice, she was able to be seen by the inhabitants, or
Well, you'll see she inadvertently dropped her body and didn't realize it. We haven't gotten there yet.
Adhyasi satya sankalpa phalitam te yadipsitam. Today, you have truth as your aim. Therefore, whatever was desired by you has borne fruit.
So this is an important idea for the yogi whose mind is quiet. Their sankalpa, their intention, there's nothing out there to conflict or contradict it. Their mind is not afflicted by doubt. And it's not just flip a switch, your sankalpa always works or it doesn't. As you get quieter, you will find, live from intuition. That's the other big part of it, rather than from recipes. The Master Jesus said it this way: my Father always hears me because I do his will. One of my favorite stories in the Gospels, Jesus and his sidekicks are walking along the road. And the scripture says a woman with an issue of blood, she had a hemorrhage, came up behind him and touched his robe. And Jesus stopped and he turned around and he says, who has touched me? And then the scripture says, for he felt that power had gone out of him. I just love that. That's so yogic. The Shakti just went, but it was her intention that caused the Shakti to flow. He was just open and full state of yoga. Very cool. All right, going on.
Lilovacha aho maya smritan yadhya purvajanma shatani me subhrantam hi maya purvam nana vidhasu yonishu. Leela said, alas, hundreds of my previous births have been remembered by me today. Indeed, I have wandered much in various kinds of wombs or places of birth earlier.
So, this is not a requisite for self-realization, but it is not uncommon. The Buddha had the same kind of experience. When you read stories of the enlightenment of the Buddha, all his former lives became available to him. Why don't we remember them? Because dying is traumatic, and we usually block it out. But many of us will have maybe not a memory of all our lives, prior lives, but many of them or some of them. But it doesn't matter, because all the material from all your lives is evident right here. It manifests itself as the prarabdha karma of the body in this very life. So, who here's had some sense of a memory of prior incarnations? And do not feel like you're missing something if it hasn't happened. Again, it is not a necessity for self-realization, but it's not uncommon. All right, and if you read like Edgar Cayce, the Sleeping Prophet, you know, he talked a lot about reincarnation and stuff like that. So it's not antithetical to Western mystics. Going on.
Section 4. Antara Vrittanta. The following story. Vasishtha Uvacha Evamakathayantau te prapya sargam dvitiyakam antapure dridashyatu rajanam shavatam gatam tata puna vinirgatya drideshatu bhayanakam. Vasishtha said, the two, the goddess and Leela, thus conversing, having arrived at the second world, saw the king, who had become a corpse, in the inner apartments of a palace. Then, going out again, they saw something frightful.
So now they're back at the primary story that we started with. King Padma lying out on the bed of flowers. And then they're going to go out and see something frightful and see what it is. Vidurata.
Senayo shastra sampattam. Senayo shastra sampatam. Yuddhe choparate nishi. Vidurathakya bhupasya. Devyao vinishatu griham. They saw a sudden fall of a number of weapons of two armies. When the battle ceased at night, the two ladies, Leela and the goddess, entered the house of the king called Viduratha.
So now we got another king, Vidurata, and he is fighting in this war. And there's a battle. One day it's completed, and now he's got another day of battle tomorrow. So let's see what happens to him. See whether he's worried about getting killed. Going on.
Prabudhya cha tada raja tandadarshanganadvayam upatya chayanat bhaktya sorpayat kusumanjilam. Then the king, having woken up, saw clearly the two women. Rising from his bed with reverence, he offered a handful of flowers.
These guys always have a handful of flowers. You keep a handful of flowers nearby just in case a goddess shows up.
I have tissues. You can throw those like flowers.
So Vidurata wakes up and he sees these two damsels, shining goddesses. Offers them flowers. Then let's see what happens.
Rajan smara vivekena purvajatim iti swayam vadanti murdhina sparsha tam karena saraswati. King, remember your former birth by discrimination. Thus saying herself, the goddess Saraswati touched him on the head with her hand.
So now she awakens Vidurata to his prior incarnations. Guess who he formerly was? Let's find out.
Atha hardam tamo maya rajnyosya kshaya mayayau sasmar purva vrittantam antaspuradiva-sthitam. Then the darkness or illusion in the heart of this king reached its end. That is, it was destroyed. He remembered his earlier history as if it were distinctly visible within.
So his prior memory, prior lives is awakened, going on.
He devyao kimidam nama dinamekam ritasya me adhyeha samatitani vayovarshani saptatihi iti prishte tada devyao ragnya vismita chetasa. Oh, ladies, what indeed is this that for me, who was dead for a day here, 70 years of age have passed today? The two ladies were thus asked by the king, whose mind was surprised.
Yes, so he's really Padma, Padma 1.0 and Padma 2.0. Dead for a day and dead for 70 years. But when you, as it were, incarnate into a dream, anybody ever had one of these? Usually for me, they're in the morning, these long, convoluted dreams. It goes from here to here to there to there. Anybody have dreams
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes really weird ways of getting from one to the other, like rolling down.
And what's the
Fabric.
relationship with the dream on Monday and the dream on Wednesday? Do you incarnate from Monday's dream into Wednesday's dream? Very strange. And again, the purpose of the story is to break down this false idea that there's a transmigrating soul that moves through linear time. That's a preliminary notion of a relative reality. Truth is no. All else is just memory or imagination. Can you really tell the difference? The future, mystery. Going on.
Devyovacha yatha swapne muhurte tu samvatsara shatabrama tava maya vilasena tathayam jagrati brahma vastu tastu na jatosi na mritosi kadachana. The goddess said, just as there is the delusion of the passing of 100 years in a moment during a dream, so is this delusion of yours during the waking state, due to the play of the illusory power. However, in fact, you are neither born nor dead at any time.
Yes. So it's not that there's some sort of reality that's objectively known that's real. All of it is Maya. Now, let's skip forward 1,000 years into 2021. Easiest way to understand this is a psychedelic trip. So you drop acid or take mushrooms or do ayahuasca, and you have a psychic experience. And with a psychedelic, what the psychedelic will do is it will tell you what you're experiencing on the trip is what's real. Oh, yes, I just resolved all my issues with my family. Oh, I saw it all the cause and effect. It was so clear. Anybody have anything like that go on in one of your acid trips? Oh, I was at Burning Man and I loved everyone and it was so real. That's what's real. Anybody had that one? And what does our mind say? Oh, in my stupid everyday mind, that's not what's real. Learning that. Oh, if only we could be like that all the time. Meaning, I think one mind state with its particular dream is more real than another. Which is the real loka. Arundhati and Vasishtha, Padma 1 and Padma 1 and Leela, or Padma 2.0 and the other Leela, Vidurata. All these are different mind tricks. That's all this world is. What is real? Only the self is real. In Mandukya Upanishad with the Gaudapadakadika, in the second chapter, by Tatya, the fourth Kadika basically says the phenomenal world is quite unreal. And the proof of its unreality is that you can see it. Anything that is knowable, cognizable, perceivable is mithya, illusion. But you are not known like an object. You are known in a very different way. You are self-evident, constant, eternal. You do not change. You are not imagined. That's the point of the story. Going on.
Shuddha Vijnana Rupastvam Dirgha Swapna Idam Jagat. You are of the form of pure intelligence or consciousness. This world is a long dream.
Yeah. Shuddha Vijnana, is that what it was?
Shuddha Vijnana, yes.
Yeah. So Vijnana is like, V is a superlative, knowledge that's wisdom, consciousness itself. Shuddha, pure. You are pure awareness. This world and all the worlds. What a dream. They are light. Nothing but imagination. Remember our three questions that this text elucidates. Who am I? What is this world? This world is Brahman. But I see names and forms. How have they come about? By means of imagination. There's the Maya Shakti of the infinite that creates galaxies and black holes and stuff. And then there's my little petting zoo, where I superimpose on that cosmic imagination likes and dislikes, right and wrong, just and unjust, etc. It's a double projection. Going on.
Rajuvacha aham deham imam tyaktva purvadeham labhet kada. The king said, when do I get my earlier body leaving this body?
So he wants to go back and be either Padma 1.0 or 2.0, probably 2.0 because he's a studly 16-year-old. Or maybe even Vasishtha, the Brahmana. Let's see.
Devyuvacha asmin rane tu murtavyam tata prapyasi purvakam etasmin prastute shrutva shatruna piritam puram Raja viduratho devyau yuddhaya yasyato mama rakshatamiyam bharyoti procha yuddhaya niryayau. The goddess said, you should die in this battle, then you will attain to your earlier body. When this was declared, having heard that the city was harassed by the enemy, the king Viduratha said, ladies, this wife of mine, who am setting out for battle, may please be protected, and went out for the battle.
This life or wife?
This wife of mine.
Okay, so he wants to protect his wife. Let's see what happens. Now, when will I get my former body? Isn't that an interesting thing? So, if you were a nun 500 years ago, do you want to go back and be that nun again 500 years ago? Again, the whole idea is sequence. The order of events is all magic. Going on.
Leela leelam dadarshanyam swakara sadrishakritam tato viraganai sakam gatva ramara bhutale prayudhyastu ato raja pratirajena sanyuge. Then Leela saw another Leela with a body resembling her own form. Then the king, having gone to the battlefield along with the hosts of warriors and fighting with the hostile king in the war, was killed.
So we've got Arundhati, Leela 1, and now Leela 2.0. All the same person, different bodies. We've got Vasishtha, Padma 1.0, Padma 2.0, and Vidurata. Same. Going on.
Section 5. Punaragamanam. The return. Mudam bharta ramalokyam Leela nugamanechaya brahma disthanamakramya prapa chidagagantaram. Seeing her stupefied husband, Leela, with the desire of following him, going towards the abode of Brahma, the creator, and others, reached the interior of the sky of consciousness.
So she basically dies and goes into some loka. Going on.
Pattane tatra padmasya devi shakyaktu pabrihitam mandape pushpa guptasya shivasya nikate sthita. There, in the city of Padma, Leela, Viduratha's wife, strengthened by the power of the goddess, stood near the corpse hidden by flowers within a hall.
So we're back to the original scene. Remember, the original Padma got old, and Leela put him in a bed of flowers, according to the goddess's instructions, did not cremate him. So now Leela 2.0 is there, seeing the king, old and withered, on this bed of flowers. Going on.
राज्ञो जीवकला लीला देवी चेति त्रयं ततः सर्गान्तरं गत्वा पद्मराजस्य मण्डपे शवपार्श्वस्थितां लीलां ददर्श पूर्वमागताम्. Then the life principle of the king, Leela and the goddess, these three having gone from world to world, saw Leela, Vidurata's wife, who had arrived earlier, standing by the right side of the corpse in the hall of King Padma.
So they're tripping around in outer space, going from loka to loka. And now they're all back in the original hall of King Padma.
Leelavacha Devi sa prakno deha katham mama na drishyate. Leela said, Goddess, how that earlier body of mine is not seen?
So the pruny body of the older Leela, where is she? All we've got is the subtle body of Leela and the subtle body of Leela, the wife of Vidurata. Where did the body of the original Leela go? Let's see.
Devyuvacha samadhau tvayi leenayam nirjivam te kalebaram chandana darubhi dagdham chittau nishikpya mantribhi ativahi kadehasi vasanaya parikshayat. When you were absorbed in samadhi, your body became lifeless. Placed in the funeral pyre, it was burnt with sandalwoods by the ministers.
So
You possess now a subtle or spiritual body by the destruction of mental impressions.
Leela 1.0, her physical body pruned out, died, burnt. She didn't even know it. Now she's just cruising around in her subtle body with her sidekick, who's herself, Leela 2.0. Going
Avantava diyam lila pashyatvitvyeva chintate utthaya sambhramat drishtva tayopadeshu sapatat. At first, let this Leela see us both. When the goddess thought thus, the new Leela, getting up in haste and seeing them, fell at their feet.
So Vidurata's Leela sees the other Leela and the goddess in the hall of the original Padma. Maybe.
Utthapayamo nripatim shavatalpat imam punaha iti jiva kalam devi nasikayam nyaveshayat. We now raise this king again from the bed of the corpse. Thus saying, the goddess introduced the life principle into the nostrils of the dead body.
So pruny old Padma, remember he was decades old, he's now brought back to life. And he gets his studly form back. Going on.
Kramat angani sarvani sarasani chakashire utthasthau sa lasatkaya prapacha vismita tada. Gradually, all his limbs shone afresh. He got up with a glittering body and then asked in wonder.
Yeah, so he's got his studly form back. How did that happen? How did he go from a dead old man into a hot young stud again? Wouldn't that be nice, Michael?
Yes. I can leave it at that.
I don't know. Going on.
Katvam keyam kutascheyam tasmai lila bravit vachaha Mahila tavali laham praktani sadharmani. Who are you? Who is this? Where from is she? Leela told him these words. I am Leela, the woman who was your wife earlier.
So Leela's saying, I'm now young and pretty too. Going on.
Iyam te mahila Leela, dvitiya Leelaya maya, upachita taiva varte, pratibimba mai shubha. This Leela, your second woman, was acquired by me only for your sake. The beautiful lady is of the nature of a reflected image.
So she's got another body. Now, this is interesting. I don't know about you, but when I dream, I'm never fat and I can see perfectly. I walk up a hill and I'm never out of breath. Is your dream body like that? Isn't that interesting? The mind creates these things. Going on. I think we're almost done. We're out of time. Can we, how many more verses?
There's 4 and then one concluding verse.
Okay, so we'll go just a little bit over tonight.
Esha Saraswati Devi Trailokya Janani Shubha Ityar Karna Sumathaya Vavande Sa Saraswati. This is the goddess Saraswati, the auspicious mother of the 3 worlds. Thus, having heard and having got up, he saluted Saraswati.
Going on.
Sarva Pado Pagachantu Santva Nanta Sukhani Vaha Ityuktva Cha Tada Devi Tatraivanta Dhimayayao. Let all calamities depart, and let there be endless happiness for you. Having said thus, the goddess disappeared there itself.
It's like the end of Midsummer Night's Dream. Going on.
Leela Leela Cha Raja Cha Jivan Mukta Mahadhiyaha Kale Videha Muktatvam Ase Durdavya Nugrahat. Leela, the second Leela and the king, of great intelligence and liberated while living, attained to the state of liberation without the body in due course by the grace of the goddess.
So they're Jivan Muktan in this body, and at some point their bodies fall off and they are now liberated beyond the body. And finally, one more or two more?
2 more. Etatte kathitam Rama drishyadosha nivrittaye lilopakhyanam dhanatam jagatatyaja. This faultless story of Leela has been narrated to you, Rama, for the removal of the blemish of the seen. Abandon the idea of the firmness or permanency of the world.
So that's the intention. Give up the notion that the phenomenal world is solid, real, cause and effect driven. It's inherently joy giving, misery producing. Comes about like a dream. Take it easy. Final little Upanishad verse.
Iti Shri Vasishtha Sangrahe Lilopakhyanam Nama Chaturtha Sargaha. Thus ends the fourth chapter titled The Story of Leela in the abridgment of Yoga Vasishtha.
Okay, we'll end here tonight. Om Purnamada Purnamida Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.